Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein, and I'll be your presenter today. Today we are looking at church directories. So in people, there's two fields in here that are really important that you need to have filled out, okay? Let's find our Bernard family. The two most important fields required for reporting are going to be right here in people. So this first field, include on directory. If you want someone to be in your church directory, you have to have that box checked, okay? If someone doesn't have that box checked, the software is going to think you don't want them on the directory report. So make sure that box is checked. There's also this with special character box right here. This is optional if you want to have like an asterisk or a caret or some type of character to appear after someone's name only in the directory. You could put a character in there. So if like somebody's on a committee or maybe their staff or something and you want to assign a special character to them so they look different, you would put something in that field itself, and then that would only show up when you run the directory. Okay. The other field that's very, very, very important is this directory/report order. So this field should be filled in for every single person that you have in membership. Okay. There's 5 different codes here. You have a primary code, a secondary code, a child with family code, secondary, primary separately, and then the individual separately. Okay, so if you have someone who is single, they're the only person in their household, they by default are going to be the primary person within that household because they're the only one. Okay, any other different type of family scenarios that you have, you're always going to have one person who will be the primary person within that family. Okay. Then after that primary person, for their spouse or partner, you have 2 options. You have secondary, which is a 2 code, and then you have secondary primary separately, which is going to be a 4 code. So if they have the same last name, you're going to have one person be the primary, one person be the secondary, which would be their spouse or their partner. Okay. But in some cases, you have couples who have 2 different last names. In that scenario, you would have, again, one person being the primary and then their spouse or partner being a 4, which is secondary, primary separately. So what that means is if you have a Bob Smith and a Sue Brown, you're going to have them listed in the directory twice under the B's for Brown and also down under the S's for Smith. Okay, so that allows people to be able to find them. So if they only know Sue's last name is Brown, then they're going to be able to know, okay, I can look in the B's and I can still find their family. So that will show them up twice in the directory. Okay. Child with family, code 3, that's going to go on every kid within that family. And then you have this 5 code, this individual separately. This is used if you have, say, an adult child who wants to be listed as their own entity or separately in the directory. This could also be used if you have like an elderly parent that moved back in with their parents or with their kid, and they're living in that household here in membership, but you want them to show up individually in the directory. You could give them a 5. Okay. So super, super important. Make sure you have include on directory checked if you want them to appear in the directory, and every single person in your database needs to have something in their directory report order field. Directory report order is good, obviously, for the directory, but that field can be used in other reports. It's also looked at in any type of parents information report you may run. It can help you query on just one person from a family. So make sure that is filled in, okay? All right, enough about that. Let's go look at our directory reports. So you can get to it one of 2 ways. Right in the middle here, you can click Reports, or you can go up to Reports Directory Export, Reports and Label, and choose this Reports Directory Export. All right, step 1, just like all of our reports, that is going to be who should be on the report. okay? We already know that directory is only going to include those people that have the checkbox on the include on directory field. That's kind of like your base criteria, if you will, okay? If you want to add additional criteria to that, you can, okay? So if you want to come in here and edit people selection criteria and you want to remove visitors, you can definitely do that. But if none of your visitors have that include on directory box checked, then you don't really have to do this extra step of unchecking it. But it doesn't hurt anything to do that, okay? You could also add additional criteria in here. If you wanted to just pull people that have an active status code, you could then add status code in here. And that would then allow you to even condense your list even more to run a directory with only people that have a particular status code, okay? But again, this is kind of extra criteria you can put in if you need to. Otherwise, you're only going to get people on the directory that have that box checked, okay? I would also verify the sort tab is sorting the way you want. A lot of times I get a phone call and I'm like, I got my directory, it's the right format, but I can't figure out what order these people are printing out in. So that has to do with this sort tab. You want to make sure sort field 1 is name, last, first, alphabetical, and that's going to give you that alphabetical sort when you go to print your church directory, okay? Now back here on the Query Builder tab, you can go in and put giving or pledging criteria in here. Typically I don't see that, so we kind of breezed over that. But if for some reason you want to run a directory of just people who gave, you could easily do that here with the number 3, okay? But basic directory, you don't need to put any criteria here. Make sure your sort order is what you want, and all you have to do is click next. All right, so now we're on step 2. If you look up in the top left here, you have 6 different options for a report format or an output of your data. Right now, directory is selected. Now, when directory is selected, in this list below, you will only see the primary person within that family, okay? So sometimes people call in and they're like, I know I have, I'm trying to run a report and I know I have people, but I'm not seeing anybody. That could be because you're trying to run a basic report and you have directory selected. So if I jump between the two, you can easily see that my list is changing. So I have Eric, Evan, Nikki, and Stuart Bernard. But as soon as I switch to directory, it's only showing Evan because he's the primary person. That's how that screen's designed to work. So don't worry if you're missing kids or spouses on this list. You're only going to see the primary person as soon as you choose that directory option at the top. Now, right below directory, we can hit the down arrow. You are going to have a bunch of templates in here. These are all layouts that our programmers have designed and put into your Church Windows database. These are templates that you don't need to customize, and there are some templates that you do need to customize. If it's a template you need to customize, it will tell you that there are some edits or changes that need to be made before you can print it, which I'll show you shortly. But looking through the templates, you have a 2-column classic directory. This one is very popular. I'm going to go ahead and select that and just hit print for now so you can get an idea of what it looks like. Classic directory is going to do just that. It's going to give you last name, first name of your primary or secondary, or primary or your number 4, your primary and secondary separately. Any kids are going to be listed on the second line. Then it's going to go into address information. If they have an alternate address, it will list the dates they are at that alternate address, and then they will list what the alternate address is. If they have a phone number, it will then proceed to print the primary phone number for the family right below. Okay, so here's the Bernard family. These are my go-tos. We have primary and secondary. We have the kids separated by a semicolon. We have their address. They have no alternate address listed, and then they have their phone number. Okay, very, very, very basic, straightforward, easy to pull information for a church directory. Now, you can also get the same directory, but in a 3-column. Again, a lot of people like the 3-column classic. Gets a little bit more information per page, and obviously it's going to be a little bit tighter, but I still think the 3-column works for this information pretty well. Okay. There is also a horizontal directory. I don't see this one used too very often. Oops, that is not what I wanted. Let's see, horizontal classic. There we go. Same information, a little bit of a different format. It's printing across the screen for the families. Personal preference, you can decide whichever you like. This one's going to take up a bit more paper though. All right, so those are some of those default templates. We also have a picture directory in here. Again, these are preset directories. You can choose. I don't have any photos in this data, but if I did, the photo would be right here. I have a full webinar on picture directories, so you feel free to watch that out on the Resource Center. But come in here and look at the different layouts, see which one you like. It doesn't hurt to just select and preview. Now, what I do want to dive into, though, is a 2-column directory with cell and email. This is the most commonly called about directory that I see on support calls. So I went ahead and selected the 2-column template directory with cell and email. As soon as I selected that directory, it's giving me that box that I told you about. It says this template contains labels for cell phone. Please edit the report and drag the membership field beside those labels and choose your cell phone field. I know that seems like a lot. I'm going to show you. It's not too bad. So say OK. And then you're going to come up here and you're going to hit the edit button. And that's going to open up your report designer, which again, I think can be a little intimidating, but it's really okay. Once you get in here and you set it up, it's done. You don't have to come in here and mess around again. There's also a zoom down here. I think this screen can get a little tiny, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. But something I do want to touch on, I chose to do the 2-column directory for cell and email. There is a 3-column directory you can do for cell and email. However, I found that some people have some really long email addresses, and when you move to that 3rd column, it starts to wrap the text on those email addresses. So to me, I would rather use 2 columns and have a full line that says Rachel's email and then list what my email address is on the same line, as opposed to it saying Rachel's email and then wrapping my email and putting it below. So again, it's just personal preference. For me, I think the 2-column directory, anytime I'm including emails, is the better option. But you can play with it and see which one you like. All right, let me zoom in a little bit. Now, we are only concerned about this side of our template, okay? You don't want to put anything in this gray area because this is where this column or this information is going to be repeated for column 2. Okay, so don't have any fields kind of hanging over here or anything like that because it's going to really mess with your margins on your directory when you go to print it, okay? So keep in mind you want to stay out of this gray space and only stay on this side that kind of looks like graph paper over here on the left, okay? So a couple things I want to talk about. You have these I think they're like a lavender purpley color, but these fields that have this purple on them, these are all what we call field connectors. It's over here on the right. Field connectors are designed for you to put membership fields into them. And once you put fields into them, the program is then capable of allowing the appropriate spaces between fields. So anytime you're lumping together more than just one field, you're going to want to go with a field connector because that's going to add the appropriate spacing. If you just had like all of these boxes just sitting here, not in a field connector, they would print exactly where the boxes were sitting on the grid. So that's why it's important to plug all those fields into a little field connector, okay? So if you're wondering why some are purple and some aren't, that's what the purpose of that is. So let me zoom in a skosh. Up here, like we looked in the preview, you have your last name, your preferred names for your primary and secondary, your primary and your number 4. Here are your kids' names. There are special character fields in here that would show you that asterisk or that caret if you decided to add that in on someone's record. Here's your address information, your primary phone, the dates they're at their alternate address, and their alternate uh, address itself, and then the alternate phone number, okay? If you decide you don't want to see an alternate address field, you don't have any, it's a waste of space, you can simply drag to select all of those fields, and then on your keyboard, just hit the delete button, and that's going to just dump those boxes, and it's going to then exclude them from showing up on the report. All these little fields are unique text boxes, so you can grab them, drag them, drop them, move them, and put them wherever you want. If you're familiar with publisher, to me, my mind goes right to publisher when I see this. So each field is its own unique text box, okay? You can drag, drop it, put it wherever you want. But with that being said, because each field is its own unique text box, when you go to change the font or font size, which is up here at the top, I'm sorry, it's a really bad circle, sorry. This is where you would go up there and you would do that. So if you want to make the font size a little bit bigger, you would have to select the field and change the font size. Select the next field and change the font size. Okay? So you don't have to, you can leave it as is. It's Times New Roman. It's pretty standard font there that you could use. I'm also going to click this undo button and bring back my alternate address fields. This undo button for me is a lifesaver in here. Sometimes things can get drug off the margin and they can turn things kind of weird colors. If that happens, simply just click your undo button and that'll get you back to where you started, which to me is way easier than trying to drag it and put it back where it's supposed to go. So the undo and the redo buttons up at the top are also really big lifesavers as well. Okay. All right, so as we look through this template, we can see, we talked about these fields. Now, if we focus in down here, we have 2 cell phone fields and 2 email fields. The message that told us or the message that appeared as soon as we clicked our template that we wanted told us that we need to add cell phone fields to this layout, okay? So this first line is for the primary cell phone. This second line is for their spouse or partner for cell phone. Email is the same way, okay? This first field with the little person on it, this is called a personalized label, okay? All this field is going to do is it's going to tell us the person's name and what field it's labeling. So this field will literally say Mitch's cell. This field will say Rachel's cell. Now, to see what the cell phone number actually is, we have to bring that membership field over. Okay, so email's already been done for us. Email looks appropriately set up. But we have to add the field that's going to actually display what the cell phone number is. So over here on the right, I'm going to grab a membership field. I'm going to drag it over, and I'm going to drop it right next to my little person within my purple field connector. As soon as I let go of that field, the program needs me to tell it what information I want to print in that membership field, okay? So I'm going to scroll down, and under personal information, I'm going to select my cell phone field, and I'm going to say okay. So now this box is in here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so we can just see the detail. Over here to the right, I'm going to grab another membership field. I'm going to drop it just the same. It's going to remember what I selected last, so I'm going to keep cell phone, and I'm going to say okay. So now I have the fields added that are going to display what the actual cell phone number is. Remember, this is just a label field, and this is the data field or the membership field. So now I need to tell it that I want the cell phone to show for the spouse or partner, not the selected individual, which is the default. So I'm going to click that field, and I'm going to hit this little gear, and I'm going to change the family member. So I'm going to change the family member to spouse, partner of individual. So this field will print Rachel's cell phone as opposed to printing Mitch's or the primary's cell phone twice, okay? Now we're going to go to the left, and this is the cell phone field that's going to print Rachel's name. So I'm going to hit my little gear, family member. It's already set to spouse, partner, so it knows to print Rachel's name, not Mitch's again. But I need to fill in this omit. So what I want to do is I want to tell the program that if Rachel doesn't have a cell phone, so the spouse partner doesn't have a cell phone, I don't want to see the field, this field, that actually says Rachel's cell and then has nothing after it. Okay, so I'm going to tell it that if Rachel doesn't have a cell phone, omit this field. So I'm going to hit the down arrow and I'm going to choose cell phone of spouse partner. So I'm going to omit the selected field if cell phone for spouse partner is blank, okay? So it'll save you some paper. Now, some people like to see the empty space so people know, okay, you haven't shared your phone number with us. That's fine. You can do that. Just don't fill in the omit, right? So this is the line for the primary person. It's already set to selected individual. That's perfect. You don't need anything in the omit field for these membership fields. We're only filling out the omit field for the personalized label. So over here, I'm gonna hit my gear. It's already set to selected individual, so it's gonna actually say Mitch's cell, but I'm gonna omit it if Mitch doesn't have a cell phone. So we're going to omit if selected field is empty, and that field is cell phone for selected individual. Okay? All right, so now we have our cell phones set up and configured properly. The email was already good to go. I'm happy with all this other information up here. So I'm going to come up to the top left. I'm going to do save as. Have to get rid of the word template. It will not let you save that. And I'm just going to leave it as 2-column directory with cell and email. I'm going to say OK. Once you get a template set up the way you want it, you can reuse it as often as you want. So you don't really need to put a date on it or anything like that because it's always going to be there available for you to reuse. So now if we look in the Dropbox, here's the name of that new directory layout. It's always going to be in here for me unless someone hits the red minus and deletes it. Let's go ahead and hit print. I know we're going a little long today. But here is what that layout is going to look like. So if we look down here at the Bernards again, here's Evan's cell, here's Nikki's cell, Evan's email. Nikki doesn't have an email, so it omitted that line that would have said Nikki's email. But that is very simple, very easy way to pull up that church directory, okay? Now, there are some other options over here on the right. These, to me, are extremely straightforward. The only one that might be a little tricky is this use additional family members linked from other households. If you have any families that have split and the kids are linked to mom and dad's household, just make sure you have that box checked, and then that will show the kid and dad's and mom's household when you go to print the directory, if that's the way you want it to look, but just make sure that box checked. There's also some grouping page break options. Page break on each person isn't going to be ideal for a multi-column directory, so probably stay away from that. But the alphabetic page break can be really nice. My church growing up used church windows, and we would get these really nice binders of everybody in the congregation, and it had like the alphabetical tabs along the side, and then you could easily jump to whatever family member that you wanted, or whatever last name you wanted to by the alphabet. So it was a really quick way to get to like the K's to find the Kleins. So you could do that alphabetic page break if you wanted to have something like that. There's also an unlisted options. So when you put in contact information in people, next to phone, email, and address, there's an option to have it unlisted. So you can set if you want those unlisted, that unlisted information to show up on the directory or not. So right now it's set to do not print. You can choose to print them if you want, and you can also choose to print them with an asterisk, so you know those are the unlisted ones. But again, it's just an option. Okay? But that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you use the reporting feature to get a directory out of Church Windows.